I'm Brenda Rowe with the world news from ITN, and today's bulletin is devoted to the Gulf War. American aircraft have launched a massive bombing raid against up to 30,000 of Iraq's elite Republican Guard with their tanks in southern Iraq. A US commander said more than 40 planes were launched at the start of round-the-clock raids against troops strung along the Kuwaiti border with Iraq. Elsewhere, the focus of attention turned to whether Israel would retaliate for a series of Iraqi missile attacks on its cities. The missiles, which contained only conventional explosives and not poison gas, did comparatively little damage and only injured 12 people. Iraq also fired a Scud missile at Saudi Arabia, but it was shot down by an American Patriot anti-missile missile, used in combat for the first time. Our first report is from ITN's Colin Baker in Israel.
For the first time in this crisis, the air raid siren sound and 1 million people prepare to receive an Iraqi missile strike. It had been expected any time over the last 36 hours. Saddam Hussein had vowed to wipe out the city. Minutes later, from a balcony 14 stories above the city, I watched as one missile plunged from the sky, disappearing among the city lights and then exploding. It seemed a miracle that only a dozen people were injured. Of at least 8 missiles launched, 5 exploded in Haifa and Tel Aviv, Israel's most densely populated areas. In one Tel Aviv street, a missile left a 20-foot crater, demolished 2 houses, and ripped the front out of some apartment building. State radio and television broadcast warnings for everyone to take shelter and to put on their gas masks. There was no indication during this hour-long attack that conventional, chemical, or gas weapons were now being deployed. It's about half an hour since we heard the last explosion, about 20 minutes since we heard the last air raid siren. So we think that perhaps the worst is now over, that this particular missile strike has now come to an end. Soldiers and police in protective suits and gas masks swamped the streets in readiness for more attacks. Hours before, the government and army leaders had warned that Israel was not yet out of danger. The fear that the Allied airstrike had left untouched some Iraqi missile batteries was now proved true. One family had the narrowest of escapes. Parts of a rocket plummeted through the roof of their house, through a child's bedroom, but no one was seriously hurt. No military targets were hit. It was an indiscriminate attack, but it was an attack the Israeli people have been preparing and training for since last August.
It's perfectly possible that he would try to launch more missiles, deadlier missiles, missiles with chemical warheads. So we don't rule anything out when it comes to Saddam Hussein.
We always say that Israel will take care of its own citizens. We don't want anyone else to fight for us or to protect us. Israeli citizens were attacked tonight. We don't know if it's all over yet for us, and we have to prepare for perhaps further attacks.
The man has sent them once, he can send them twice, and if he's not stopped, he will continue to send them. This is why I said this crazy, brutal dictator has to be stopped.
The best defender of Israel is Israel. That's a widely held principle here. The Allies may want Israel to stay out of the war, but if missiles continue to rain down on these cities, the government may not need much persuading to launch its own offensive. Colin Baker, ITN, Tel Aviv.
As well as the attack on Israel, the Iraqis also fired a Scud missile at Dhahran in Saudi Arabia. It was shot down by an American Patriot missile. The Scud's intended target was the airbase at Dhahran, where ITN's Jeremy Thompson has been watching British and Saudi tornadoes returning from their latest missions.
A cameraman's swift reactions picked up the first shots of a Patriot missile going for the kill. A searing glow as it arched upwards to intercept an Iraqi Scud missile, destroying it in a fireball high overhead. At our hotel close to the airfield under attack, another air raid drill. This time the alert was for a chemical attack with possibly more Scuds incoming. But none arrived. Long past dawn, the Allied combat planes continued to climb up into the Saudi skies, confirming that the runways were still open. An incessant drone as wave after wave headed towards enemy country. Among their targets were those Scud launching sites inside Iraq. Out in the Persian Gulf, the U.S. battleship Wisconsin was complementing those airborne raids with its own aerial assaults. Deep down in the blue half-light of the control room, American sailors carried out their final checklist before launching another cruise missile. On closed-circuit television cameras, they watched the launch pod raise for action.
Recommend ship disclosure. Closing vent.
The missiles were armed, then came the command.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch.
Missile away!
Yes, sir.
Streaking away into the ink-black sky, a Tomahawk missile heading for Iraq. Then another, their computers pre-programmed with a detailed picture of the target and every obstacle to avoid on the journey. Below decks, a radar scanner showed the path of the missiles as they attacked Iraq. Wisconsin's captain, David Bill, was pleased with the Tomahawk.
Worked great. Tomahawk is an impressive system. It's been postulated to be a very effective strike weapon, to augment our strike capability from aircraft carriers. And I think the combination gives us a very potent force indeed.
Back on land, the pilots were returning to base as the missions continued night and day. The pilots said they'd encountered heavy ground fire, but few enemy aircraft. They claimed friendly planes controlled the skies. The Saudis welcomed their returning airmen with relief. So far, their air force remains intact. But they are well aware that as many as 6 Allied planes are now missing. Jeremy Thompson, ITN in eastern Saudi Arabia.